Sporting Journal Radio, presented by Onyx.
Hi, this is Sporting Journal Radio. I'm Brett Amundsen. Thanks for tuning in on the network by demand, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. That's Dan Amundsen right over there. Dan, how you doing?
Hey.
This week we actually hosted somebody at the house for a couple of days.
Yeah, we have another in-studio guest. This is a rarity. I think third ever.
Yeah.
Tom Landwehr. David doesn't count. David's wife counts, though.
Lindsay
was here.
So it's David's wife, the former DNR commissioner of Minnesota, and now Thomas Hoke. Ladies and gentlemen, Thomas Hoke.
Sounds like I'm in good company there.
How you doing?
Good. Just finished up a little chilly evening goose hunt, but migrators are rolling, so can't complain about that.
So you got just a little bit of a southern accent there. It's not real heavy, but you've been spending a lot of time in Minnesota. Hey, did you lose some of your Virginian accent, or is there just not much of an accent there?
I don't think I lost much. I don't think I had much to begin with. I'm just not really. It's weird. You go an hour south of where I'm from, and there's a real southern drawl down there, but the area that I'm from, no one really has much of a drawl at all. So I don't think I've lost much, but hopefully I'll never have the full-on Minnesota accent. I'd like to still have a little bit of a drawl in there, even if I do spend some more time up here.
I mean, after living basically with Corey Loeffler for a couple of years, I'm surprised you don't have a quasi-Minnesota Canadian Virginian accent all rolled into one.
That would be a weird one. That'd be a really weird one. But I'm probably getting there. I'm probably, it's going to be such a slow transition that I'm not going to notice. But when I go back home for Christmas or something, everybody's going to be looking at me funny. So, I'm probably getting there.
So, Hoke Outdoors on YouTube, and you've been working with Corey, DRC Call Company. Do you got anything else you want to put out there that you do?
No, that's basically it. I'm really happy. Just kind of splitting time between those two things, and getting to work for DRC the last couple of years has been a dream come true. So it's been really fun, and look forward to hopefully continuing it.
You have a good following on YouTube. How long have you had your channel?
8 years now, I guess. I've had the channel. I started it the day before opening day of dove season in 2014, and didn't really get into it until my senior year of high school. That's when I really started filming videos. I got a little bit better editing, so had some more time for that. But had it for 8 years now, which, gosh, that sounds like it's a lot longer time than I feel like I've been making videos for.
It doesn't get any better either. What made you decide to do a YouTube channel?
Well, back in, right when I started it, I just bought a GoPro. I think I walked into Walmart or something. I had $150, $200 burning a hole in my pocket. It was right after, summer. I'd been mowing lawns, watering gardens, doing all sorts of stuff all summer. I had a little bit of money burning a hole in my pocket. It's like, I'll buy a GoPro, I'll start a YouTube channel. I'd seen, the hunting, people were starting to post kind of hunting videos on YouTube. Up to that point, it was pretty much all just kill shot montages, the loudest, heaviest rock music you could put on there, cranked to 10, and then as many kill shots as you could put in there. But I kind of wanted to make videos that encompassed the whole hunt. It wasn't just the kill shot. I'd seen some people dabbling with that, so that was the reason that I really wanted to get into it. And then come my senior year of high school, I got my driver's license, and I didn't really grow up waterfowl hunting. I grew up deer hunting. My dad's big into deer hunting, did a good bit of turkey hunting, but never really, we'd go out for a couple goose hunts every year down at one of his friends' places, but not much duck hunting. So I got my driver's license and kind of went out, bought a kayak, and hit the water as many times as I could that year, and tried to film as much as I could, and kind of been running from there ever since.
So explain to our listeners and viewers here what your channel is all about. What will they see there?
It's mainly waterfowl hunting. I try to branch out outside of it and, do some fishing stuff, some other sort of hunting content. But waterfowl hunting is what I live for. I mean, I'd say I'm a waterfowl hunting addict. I mean, during the months that you can waterfowl hunt, it's pretty much all that I think about. So that's kind of the bread and butter, and I try and film a variety of different waterfowl hunting videos. I try and really do it all. I think that's one of my favorite things about waterfowl hunting is there's so many different birds you can hunt, and there's so many different ways you can hunt them. So my goal is just to get out and hunt as many different birds in as many different ways as I can, and show the whole process, everything that goes into the hunt itself, and then also try and show some cooking, some what goes on after the hunt, cooking, cleaning, all that sort of stuff.
You came down here with a kayak, and I mean, we've definitely hunted out of boats and canoes and sneak boats, a lot of sneak boat stuff. Haven't done a lot of the kayak stuff, and the time of year that you decided to come down, everything pretty much froze up except for kind of the major rivers or major waterways, but pretty much everything was pretty locked up. So when you said you were going to come down here and hunt out of a kayak, I mean, we all thought it was kind of cool and also kind of crazy.
Yeah. I think I get a good bit of that, and honestly, I'm still on the fence. I don't know if I have a lot of confidence with the kayak, and I know I have a lot of confidence with the kayak. I do a lot of crazy stuff with the kayak, but I don't know if it's dumb or if I'm just crazy enough that I get away with it. On the first day I was down here, I floated 3 miles of river all by myself in 15-degree weather, and I mean, I'd say that's pretty crazy. Not something that your average guy is going to do, but I love the adventure of it. Getting out on the kayak is the ultimate adventure to me, and every time I'm able to get out, especially floating a river in a kayak, there's something really special about it, because especially if it's a new stretch of river, you never know what's around the next turn. The next turn there's some suspense behind it. And we were actually talking about pheasant. We've been pheasant hunting this week, and we were talking about the dog working with pheasant hunting and how much suspense there is there when you see the dog getting birdie. And it's that same sort of feeling. That's why I love it. There's something magical about watching 20, 30 mallards hover down over a decoy spread, but there's also something really fun and interesting about floating a river in a kayak, and I've kind of grown to love it.
As you were describing that, I was thinking about how I was going to compare that to pheasant hunting, and then you just did it. I mean, we were both going down the same path.
He's coming for your job.
Yeah, because you're right, and I was thinking about that when we field hunt or hunt a water spread or whatever, we are sitting in one place basically, and you're waiting for the birds to come to you. And one of the things I like about pheasant hunting so much is that you're moving constantly, and you're seeing new places, you're seeing new things, you're seeing other wildlife. You're not just sitting in the same surroundings constantly. You're out there, and I like to tell people when I pheasant hunt, I'm getting into places that I'd never go to without being a pheasant hunter. Yep. And they're places that 99% of the world's population will never step foot in, and they're beautiful places. They're cool landscapes, or you'll bump a deer. Like today, I almost got run over by a deer. How many people can say that they had a deer charging at them at about 6 feet before it decided it didn't want to run over me, which I appreciated. But you get to see things like that, and then you have that anticipatory. The dog is birdie. Something's going to happen. Is the bird going to flush? Is it going to flush in front of the dog? Is it going to be behind? You don't know where it's going to come from. And it is like that when you're coming around a bend, especially on a river you've never been before, never been on before. You don't know what is coming around that next bend. And actually, we used to float rivers growing up when we would duck hunt. There was a stretch of river that we would do that too. And we'd come up to a bend, and maybe you'd hear a quack, or a whistle from a wood duck or something like that. And you'd have no idea, and you would just get real quiet and try to float that canoe and just get it to spin just a little bit when you're coming around the bend so you can sneak up on them. One time we came around the bend, and there was a sow and 3 cubs there. And all of a sudden we came around the bend, there were 4 black bears right in front of us.
Holy cow.
It was kind of scary. Have you ever run into something, been surprised like that coming around the corner on a river?
I'd say the weirdest thing that comes to mind, and it was kind of sad. We this September we actually came across a deer that I'm pretty sure had blue tongue, EHD. Yeah, it was. It let us float up 5 yards from it. It was right down by the water. And from my understanding, that's kind of typical symptoms. They get that, they get a fever, and they go straight to the water, and that deer is probably dead the next day. But it was kind of interesting to see a deer that would let you get 5 feet from it, but it was definitely, it wasn't in its right mind. So saw that, but no, I don't think I've ever seen a bear. Seen a lot of eagles, a lot of ospreys on the rivers in Virginia, but Never a bear quite yet, so maybe have to go do some float hunts in Alaska and see if
there you go.
I can run into a big old brown bear.
Well,
That'd be fun.
Did you ever see that clip of, oh gosh, who was it? I'm pretty sure it's, what's his name? He was hunting either in the Yukon or Alaska, and they were in a boat, and they were floating a river, and they got charged by a brown bear or a grizzly bear or whatever it was. And I think that they were with a guide, so maybe it was the Yukon. And the guide had to shoot. I don't think he shot the bear. I think he shot at the bear and finally scared it off. But it came charging into the water. Oh gosh, that's gonna drive me crazy. But it's I'm pretty sure it's in the intro of his show. And we've had him on the show. Fred Eichler. It was Fred Eichler. He from Colorado. I think he was up hunting, and he got charged by in a boat, like a grizzly bear charging out into the river in your boat. Man, yeah, I don't want to go. And in that saw with the 3 cubs, we were really worried about it because she had the cubs there, and
yeah. What did she end up doing?
I scared her off. She knew it was me. No, I don't remember, but she turned and ran the other way, thankfully, and we didn't have to deal with it. But that float that you did here on your trip down here, you did see a couple of deer along the river, though.
Yeah, I saw quite a few actually. And when I was launching my kayak, Tony was telling me you might be pissing off some deer hunters by doing this. There's going to be a lot of deer hunters down along the river. So I was kind of being very vigilant for that because I didn't have any orange on me. Obviously, I'm trying to sneak up on waterfowl. I'm not going to wear orange. But I was just, trying to keep my eyes up and make sure that I wasn't going to, hug a bank too tight where it might just be some movement that could look like a deer.
How'd launching your kayak go?
Ooh, not so great. Yeah, going back to that thing about confidence with the kayak, I got way overconfident. We're talking going down icy riprap and dragging my kayak down, look back, and it's barreling down the rocks probably 5-6 miles an hour, and I tried to jump out of the way and did not get out of the way quite in time and landed smack on my gun. Luckily, well, I guess not luckily, the rib was already bent a little bit. Now it's way bent, but I shot a couple pheasants today, so I guess it's not...
Still shoots straight.
Yeah, still shoots
or
straight.
Just corrects for you not shooting straight, maybe.
Yeah, I guess that does make sense because I missed one on the first day,
That's right.
And then I bent my rib, and now I killed 2 on the last day. So, yeah, no, I definitely... I love it! Me, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and you shot some geese too with it, I'm assuming, this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, I would think I hit at least one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was kind of that was a team effort. They had you got 2 guns, 3 birds come in and do it perfectly. I don't think there's gonna be too much bird claiming going on there. Yeah. Hopefully, unless
until it's banded.
Yeah, until it's banded,
right.
And then we'd probably be pulling up the shot cam footage and watching me miss.
Well, it was great too because you came down here and you did end up shooting 1 duck on that river float, if I remember right.
Yep.
And then we pheasant hunted and you shot behind one, or you shot the tail feathers off one. I feel like you took some feathers off that one.
I don't know. It was one of those ones where we went back and looked at the footage, and I mean, typically you can follow the wad. If the wad is going, right towards the bird, and you're not, and you're not too far behind or in front of it, you're going to hit the bird. I felt like the lead was perfect. The wad went straight in the line the bird was at, but it just flew through the pattern basically. And then
Matrix.
Yeah, I don't know, some weird sort of stuff. But no, I didn't see any feathers come off that one, which kind of thankful. Always hate to knock feathers out of one and not bring it down. So,
well, okay, so you didn't shoot pheasants on that first time, and then we went out and most of us sat pretty much all day during we're finally getting geese to migrate, and we sat out all day. Yeah, I mean, you helped us pick up a spread, helped us set a spread, sat out there for most of the day, never pulled a trigger, never saw a goose. And then finally on the last day, we go out and pheasant hunt, shoot some birds, and then go out and I had to talk you into going out for the last hour.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I got work to do. I love making YouTube videos, but at the same time, I got calls to make. Got a bunch of orders coming in. People want to get their calls before Christmas time, so trying to get some calls shipped out. But yeah, I mean, we were getting Snapchats of hundreds of birds working the spreads. That's kind of hard to say no to that.
Yeah, so you mentioned Tony earlier. That's Tony Crotty from Mid-Migration Outfitters. And Tony and Dan, you guys were out in the spread. What time did you guys go out there today?
Well, Tony probably ran out there about 1:30. I was editing Prairie Sportsman, and that needs to get done. I'll get it done, Prairie Sportsman, I promise. But I had to...
It's migration day.
Yeah, I started seeing birds fly over the house and over the office, and then Tony started Snapchatting all of us, and it's like, okay, let's put a sequence together, and I put on my camo as fast as I could and ran out there. I don't know, maybe got out there about 2 o'clock and met you guys. As soon as you got there, we were all done, unfortunately, but luckily you guys were there so I could stay and film, which was a blast.
Yeah.
I love being able to do that.
That was great, yeah. And we got done pheasant hunting, and the whole time we pheasant hunted for a couple hours, Tom, something like that. And we had Forrest Husett and also Andy Reeves with us, who the guys we did the layout duck boat hunting with up at Lake of the Woods. They came down and hunted with us, so the four of us went out, and I filmed, and you guys shot some birds. And the entire time, I don't know if I'll include this in the pheasant footage, but every so often I just put the camera up because there'd be another giant flock of geese flying over us. It was like constant, like heavy push today. And in the back of my brain, I'm like, man, there's a decoy spread just sitting there waiting for us. But it was getting later in the day, and those guys had a bail, and then you were getting ready to leave, and I was like, well, all right, we'll just relax a little bit, wrap things up, do a little podcast recording, and then you can head out. And then I opened up my phone, and you and Andy were talking about ducks and this and that, and I'm just like watching 100 Snapchats from Tony about geese like bombing into the spread.
We have so many Snapchats we take. Like, so many.
I'm like, guys, we gotta go hunt. Forrest, Andy, you guys are welcome to join us, but if you're not, we gotta go. And Thomas, you should go out there with us. And you did. And we kind of hauled out there. We met Tony and Dan on the road there. They had just gotten done and they were leaving. So we ran out there and we were kind of talking, setting up. And I remember saying, as we were walking out to the blind, like, I don't really see any geese flying. We might have missed it. It might be too late.
We definitely thought you guys were too late.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't think you were going to pull the trigger. None of you.
So we're down there and we're in an A-frame, and we're both kind of getting our guns out and calls and doing everything, getting all set up. And all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, what is that noise? Like, and I look up and Dan's just barreling at the blind as fast as he can,
very fast,
sprinting at it through the snow. And he comes ripping open the blind with this wild look on his face. I'm like, are there birds coming or something? He's like, yeah, there's 3 right in front, and they're going to do it. And I look up, and it's just 3 birds just locked up, wing tricking and doing all this. And he couldn't have done it any better.
No, I mean, absolutely could not have done it any better. I mean, just hovering over the decoys, basically, what they were doing, or over the kill hole, actually.
Perfect.
And the wind had switched between when we set the decoy spread and today, hadn't it?
Yeah, we were talking about that before you guys got out there. That we had set those decoys for an east wind, so it was kind of awkward. And we definitely had a few birds before you guys get out there get a little weird over it, because this time of year birds get kind of weird about flying over decoys. And they had to fly over that big, especially their silhouettes, they had to fly over. And it was just one of those days that I guess it didn't matter mostly. But yeah, I was set for an east wind, and we had obviously had a northwest wind today, and some just didn't care. Went right over those decoys right into the hole.
Well, I feel like they spun at least once, I think, on us, and then came back around. And like, I was getting ready to film them, and Dan's like, I'll film it. I'm like, oh, heck yeah. So I grabbed my gun.
I couldn't do anything else.
Yeah,
I wasn't just going to sit there. Yeah.
So I load up my gun quick, and those 3 came in, and there was one kind of separated on the left, and I know I shot at that one. Maybe you
killed that one.
I didn't know if you shot at it too, whatever. And then the 2 were kind of grouped up.
Yep.
For me,
I tried to kill them both with one shot.
So did I. I was kind of waiting for you to shoot, and then I was like, so I shot, and we probably both shot whatever. One falls, and then I'm like, uh-oh. And then it was swinging too far to the right. I couldn't shoot at it anymore. So I'm like, kill that goose. And you took another shot, and it kept flying away. And I'm like, well, we got the 2 of them, whatever. And then I think you said, wait a minute or hang on? Or,
yeah, I could tell it was like it was slowing up and it was gaining altitude at the same time.
Yeah.
And like I've seen it happen with ducks before, not much with geese actually, but ducks, if you hit them in, I think it's probably either a lung or a liver,
like a heart shot or something.
Yeah,
like shooting a deer.
Yep, and they just kind of start gaining altitude, and then they it's like they stall out almost, and they stall out completely, and then they just fall dead. So that was what he did.
Exactly what he did. I've seen pheasants do that a lot too. I've seen pheasants fly like a half mile and do that exact thing. Fly up, like hover for a second, and then just they die, and it falls straight down. And I walked up to it. It was stone dead laying there. But so we wiped out the 3-pack. That's pretty cool.
Yep. And then we had one more come in, and actually that might have been what we were talking about with that wind kind of messed him up, because it was a single that came back 3 times.
Yeah.
First 2 times comes in, works the decoys like 3 or 4 circles, peels out, and then we hear the same single come back. And I think it was pretty sure it was a mid-sized bird. It had a little bit of a higher pitched
EPP.
EPP, probably, yep.
EPP. It had a little bit of a higher pitched honk. And third time it comes back and proceeds to shortstop us. So
it landed.
If that group of silhouettes wasn't there, again, wrong thing. It landed on the edge of the decoys like it should have. It did not. I mean, that was our fault. We probably should have moved them, but whatever. I mean, it's always kind of fun to just watch geese in the decoys like that. And I also have a theory, and we talked about that we might have shot that one's mate.
Yeah.
The way it worked, like it was honk would I think it twice it bugged out on us and then finally came back and landed, and all the other geese that we had landed in the decoys, Tony had landed some decoys before I got there and was telling me every single goose.
He's really good at landing decoys.
Landed some geese, and every single one of them, or a lot of them I should say, they'd land, and then in that snow they'd lay down. They'd take 2 steps, lay down to melt that snow to eat. And this one never did that. I was watching it for it, never did that. It just stood there and honked a little bit. And so I'm guessing one of us shot its mate or something, because you'll see that a lot, that they mate for life. They'll try to come back and find them, and rarely you're able to land those geese, and this time we did. But just one of those things, and that goose will head south and figure out.
I mean, I've killed a lot of geese that if it's a pair and you shoot the one, and then you can always call. Always, a lot of times you can call.
A lot of times they're tough too, though. Yeah. Like they'll circle a lot, but a lot of times, at least in my experience, they won't commit like that, and kind of like this one did twice, and then finally, Price got tired.
Yeah, and that dang thing, like it was just harassing us, and I know we'd hammer on the calls at it, and then we'd get real quiet, and we'd get real high pitched, and we'd get real low pitched, and then the last time I just set my call down. I'm like, he would set up, he would set up, and he was coming in, so I was like, well, he obviously doesn't like what we're doing with the calls. I'm just going to set the call down, see if he does it, and then he landed on the outside of the spread.
Yeah, I picked up my squeaker tweaker and tried to rip on him. Actually, I thought I had him. I don't know if y'all saw that. He was landing out at like 100, 120. I started ripping on that because we'd both been blowing, I think, deep honker calls. I was blowing a life sentence. I'm not sure exactly what you were blowing, but start ripping on that squeaker tweaker, and he came an extra 60 yards, but still just did not want to fly over those extra silhouette decoys.
Behind your computer right there. Yeah, I changed and used my short drop. So I changed it up from my core to the short drop to try to give it a different sound, and sometimes you got to throw different things at him, see what sticks.
Yep.
Didn't matter. Obviously, he'd been harassed. He was not happy about life and wanted to get in there for one reason, but didn't really want to get in there, and that's all right. Either way, you're backwards there. Yep. Either way, we finished the hunt and finished the week on a good note.
Yep.
And it's nice when things come together. And you and I talked about this a little bit, or maybe I guess it was me and Andy talking about this. We were talking about guide trips and the guys that book multi-day guide trips versus, like a 1 or 2 day hunt, like a 3 to 5 day hunt. Yeah, it's more expensive, but those guys tend to be a little bit more relaxed about things because they know not every hunt's going to be a banger. So like you coming down for a few extra days like this, it's nice because it allows you to be able to have the time to have a good hunt, if not everything aligns right away.
Yep, exactly. And we were kind of talking about it during the hunt, like this time of year is just boom or bust. It's late season, birds are really congregated, you're dealing with big pushes of birds and a lot of stale birds too, a lot of birds that have been shot at and seen a lot of decoy spreads. So when you get into them, like Dan and Tony did today, it can be really good. But when the weather's not in your favor, or you don't have kind of that perfect setup, a lot of times it's just a grind to squeak out a few birds.
Hoke Outdoors is the YouTube channel. What are some of the crazier hunts that people can watch on there?
Ooh, say probably the craziest one, or I'd say my favorite story behind a hunt is the one I actually have as my channel trailer. It's from last year down in North Carolina, and I had spent basically the whole weekend hunting down there. Their season's kind of weird. They open up for an early season, a 2-day early season, like the last weekend in October. And so I hunted the opening day of that season, didn't do much, and drove like 200-300 miles east, doing a ton of scouting, and actually met up with a couple local guys, and I'll let the rest play out in the video, but it was really cool to meet up with a couple local guys, just completely happenstance, and we had a pretty incredible hunt. And then besides that, I mean, I got hit in the head once by a goose. Tell
us that story.
Yeah, I mean,
because Dan had one that landed almost in the blind today.
I should have caught it. Yeah, I suck at my job today. I'm sorry for whoever's watching this on YouTube, because either I have a lot of editing to do or it's rough.
Oh boy,
jeez.
Well, you almost could have caught it. It probably would have hurt, because
that's why I didn't catch it. Yeah,
because didn't you get knocked right out?
Yeah, I mean,
sorry for
it knocked me out completely. we had I want to say it was like a 5, 6, 7 pack of honkers coming over, and it was just a pass shot, like 30-35 yards. I stand up, crumple the one on the right side of the flock. I'm standing in the right side of the blind, crumple the rightmost one, switch over, double up, hit another one, the second most, or the one that's now on the rightmost side of the flock. So I doubled up, and as I'm going for the triple, I just get absolutely clobbered, and I was out for like 5-10 seconds and wake up. And the funniest thing about it actually is that the other two guys I was with did not realize what happened. They turned around and I'm laying on the ground, and they're like,
gosh,
"Why
I'm
are
watching
you laying
it
on the
right here."
ground? What's going on?" And I'm like, I just got hit by that goose. Like, I have a concussion right now. And they're like, oh my God, it did hit him. And the goose is laying there beside me. I will say the one part about that I really missed out on is I had a GoPro facing back towards us, and it died 5 minutes before that, and that would have been the funniest angle, because it would have been the impact. And I mean, it just absolutely clocked me. I don't think I probably had I don't know if I had a concussion or not. Like, I didn't really have concussion symptoms. I've had them before, but I had a headache for the rest of that hunt. But it was a really, really good hunt, and I couldn't back out on it at that point. So
either go to your YouTube channel, or I just played it here on the show. Then I apologize for laughing, because that's kind of
funny. It's hilarious. Like, and people always ask me if it hurt, and I'm like, this is like a 10 to 12 pound goose, and it's falling from 30 yards up with momentum already. I mean, imagine someone taking a bowling ball. Bowling ball is 10 to 12 pounds, and just chucking it off the top of a 3-story building and it landing on your head.
Right.
That's gonna hurt.
Well, I've seen them. We had one hunt where actually I watched a goose land on a layout blind, and the guy was in the layout, and it was coming at him, so he bailed. Like, he literally rolled out of the layout blind, because he got freaked out. I don't blame him, because that goose then hit the right side of the layout blind and flipped it over. Like, picked it up and flipped it right over. And then another one, might have been the same flock, I can't remember, but another one landed on the dog blind and bent the frame of the dog blind.
Yeah.
And those were not 35 yards up either. So these are big heavies, but those things will do some damage.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's just dead weight too. So I mean, it's going to hit where it's going to hit. And a lot of times, actually I got lucky that day, because we shot 7 geese that day. 5 of them had broken wings, like bad broken wings. And luckily the one that I shot was one of the 2 that did not have a broken wing. So like, could have at very
got stabbed.
Yeah, put an eye out, worst comes to worst, catches you in the neck, and next thing you know, you're bleeding out on a duck hunt.
Gosh,
so.
you know what's going to happen is somebody in Minnesota is going to hear this interview now, and Minnesota is going to put in some sort of regulation that we have to wear helmets and mouth guards when concussion protocols, if you get hit in the head, you have to get out of the blind.
That's what I was going to say. There's going to be somebody who has to watch every hunt and then a play later or a volley later.
The volley later, you can come back in.
Go into concussion protocol. But that's why we need to vote.
That's right. That's right. I vote for no helmets in the goose blind.
I was watching this, and you're giving like the recap after. You definitely looked very dazed.
Oh, I was seeing stars. But
I don't know what you're saying, but
I've been doing it for like long enough. Like I've been making videos for like a year or two. Like it was just kind of, I was conditioned to that point where I was like, well, that just happened. But yeah, let's point a camera at myself and try and talk to it. So yeah.
I got 2 words for you.
Ouch.
Made in America.
Goose hunting hurts.
That's and hilarious. That clip was made in America.
That's awesome. Well, do you do a lot of traveling for the channel, and do you got some trips planned or places you want to go and film?
Yeah, I mean, I do a good bit of traveling. I'd say it's, I'm looking for the right word here. It's facilitated by the channel. Like I'm definitely able to do it because I make these videos and they do give me some sort of revenue, but I love traveling to hunt. Like it's probably one of my favorite things to do is just exploring new places. So even if I wasn't filming videos, I think I'd be traveling just as much. But this year, I got out to North Dakota for the first time ever on a duck hunting trip, and that was absolutely incredible. Just the number of ducks out there blew me away like nothing I've ever seen before. And I'd kind of had a taste of that. I'd got out there for the August goose season before, so that was like way up at the top of my list. Seeing all those breeding birds out there, it's like I got to get out there during the regular duck season. So I was really glad I got to do that. But besides that, I really want to explore the Pacific Northwest more. I got to hunt Idaho last season for a few days and had an absolute blast with that. And it's just a really cool part of the country and the thing I like about it is it reminds me a lot of the hunting in Virginia. Like a lot of it's kind of coastal stuff, marshes, swamps, a lot of the same habitats we see in Virginia, but it's completely different birds. The birds act differently. They have different limits. They, have different species compositions. They have a ton more widgeon out there. We don't have many of those on the East Coast. So I really like that it's similar habitats, but people shoot a lot of different birds and they hunt them a lot differently as well.
You've spent some time now in the central Mississippi flyways after you're the Atlantic flyway over there. Mm-hmm. How different are these flyways as someone that's hunted across a bunch of them?
It's hard to describe. I mean, honestly, it's like being in a different world. Like if you took hunting, at least in the hunting I've done in Virginia and North Carolina, those are the only 2 East Coast states I've hunted. So I haven't hunted the whole of the Atlantic flyway. And I feel like it's kind of hard to compare, being way up at the northern end of the central flyway and being kind of the middle part of the Atlantic flyway. But it's like being in a different world for sure. Like the bird numbers, the way the birds act, the hunting pressure. It's I find it much more enjoyable to hunt out here. I still enjoy hunting back home in Virginia. I enjoy kind of some of the nostalgia of hunting a swamp for wood ducks, but kind of the quintessential Virginia duck hunt is a 15-minute wood duck hunt in a swamp, and after those 15 minutes you might as well head home because the odds of seeing a mallard or a teal or anything else are slim to none. So I think it's just the fact that so many more birds are produced directly north of these flyways, and because of that, they funnel down here versus the East Coast is so heavily developed that what used to be the breeding habitat there is severely depleted, and at this point we rely on those migrators that have to migrate all the way across the country, mind you. Like people like to talk a lot about how the canvasbacks don't make it to the Chesapeake Bay anymore. Well, they have to migrate all the way past the Great Lakes, which hardly freeze anymore. It's more of a lateral migration, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. They go through the Great Lakes, and they focus in on a couple of the lakes in that area in particular, and if those couple lakes don't freeze, then you're not going to see a big push. So having to rely on those birds that are migrating 1,000, 2,000 miles, and a lot of those birds are ice dependent, has really made hunting tough the last few years when we haven't had a real winter. Yeah, I don't know anything about East Coast waterfowl for that matter, and
but I've learned that there are some birds that will travel more. They'll come down and then go almost straight east to go out to the coast out there, which is just a weird migration pattern to me. But also here in Minnesota in particular, but people complain about confusing regulations at times. Some people don't like the splits. I'm in favor of the split.
Not this year.
This year, yeah. This year is a bit of a weird year, but
did the big push come during the split this year?
It came literally right now.
Well, this was just now.
This was
yeah.
Gotcha.
So the dates are pretty much right on this year. Our split was a good time this year.
I still like the split. I'm not going to trash the split, but we're fearing that our season's done a little earlier than the season date says, and that's just Mother Nature. But
we've normally pushed for a later duck season because we want to shoot late season mallards. This year that we may not have that.
Yeah, it might bite us in the butt. Oh well.
But you and I were talking this week a little bit about some of the weird rules and regulations as you have out on the East Coast, and I'm wondering to you, for someone that's hunted there and someone that's hunted here, Mississippi Central, Atlantic, who do you think has more confusing regulations? Because I feel like it's that way everywhere. Like you're going to have some special regs to protect some populations of birds and some species that might have lower numbers right now. And it's just up to hunters to kind of know what's going on. And sure, it can get confusing and frustrating at times, but you're going to have that everywhere, I think.
Yeah. I think the East Coast has more confusing regulations. In that, some of the regulations, the blind law one in particular, which basically people can license blinds and renew them every year, and you can't hunt within 500 yards of a licensed blind. So Virginia has thousands of miles of public water, rivers and creeks and such, and you can't hunt a lot of that because there's licensed blinds along all of it. I would say I think Minnesota's regulations are a lot more frustrating, and it goes back to like one of the first things I think Corey ever told me when I came up here is if you're having fun in Minnesota, you're probably breaking the law. And I cannot tell you how true I found that to be.
Sounds like Corey.
Like, I mean, it's just the regulations are just like, it's not that they're hard to interpret. They're easy to interpret. It's just like, what is the reasoning behind this? I don't understand why a lot of regulations in Minnesota are the way they are. Like, for instance, the open water regulation, you can only layout boat hunt on 3 lakes in Minnesota. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why can't it be all lakes? What are they trying to protect there is my question. So, that kind of came up when we were talking to Adam today. Like, he's talking about having to do specific things with his layout boat on specific lakes versus out on the lake that they hunt. They can actually hunt a layout boat like it's supposed to be hunted out in the middle of open water.
Well, that actually came up, and the public actually had the chance to voice their opinion on that last year. Was it? I think last year in the survey came out.
Yeah.
And there wasn't enough support for it. Like the hunters had a chance to say whether they liked it or not. And it's surprising because a lot of us were kind of for it, at least opening up some more bodies of water for it. Because right now it's frustrating. Even if you just want to straight up hunt out of a boat, duck boat, sometimes it's hard to get enough concealment in natural vegetation to be completely legal. So trying to change that a little bit was something that's been brought up, and the DNR offered it up and said, hey, hunters, how do you feel about this? And there wasn't enough support for it.
I think it's to protect the sloughs kind of thing. Like, I'd be for opening up to more lakes, but not everywhere. Like, take a lot of our little sloughs we have around here in western Minnesota, and you get some Joe Schmo who thinks it's going to be a good idea to set up in the middle of this slough while somebody's trying to hunt the edge. Like, if it's a big slough and there's potential to have 2 groups for it, I'm not a fan. Like, I don't like hunting with 2 groups, but if that's a possibility, you don't want some guy just setting up in the middle of it. Or take it from this example, on a fishing lake in September, you're going to get 12 guys that are going to load up on a pontoon on Gull Lake in Brainerd. Guys are going to be trying to jet ski, and it's a weird deal here. And that could just, it could get weird because I think a lot of birds, especially local birds, are so used to boats and stuff, they'd be very susceptible to it. I don't know. It's a strange thing, and I have mixed feelings about it. But I would like to see like a Leech Lake or a Winnie have it. Like right now, layout boat hunting on Leech would be a blast.
So what is it? It's Mille Lacs, it's Lake of the Woods, it's Pepin, and Superior.
Lake Superior, yeah.
And the Mississippi. I think the parts of the Mississippi you can do it too.
Yeah, I think there's still That's still weird. It's not like just a free-for-all. I think there's still a weird reg.
Yeah, I think it's like south of Hastings or something.
Yeah. Read up on that. Don't quote us on that one.
But I think part of it too is Minnesota is such a water hunt state. Yeah. Like particularly the old tradition of hunting divers and hunting bluebills in Minnesota. So many people in Minnesota, as compared to other places, except maybe out on the coast, the sea duck guys or whatever, are water hunters. Like you go to North Dakota, and if the locals see you with a blue plate and a boat behind you in the fall, they're not going to talk to you, and they're not going to let you on their land, and they're not going to be happy about it. So Minnesota is a water hunting state just because we're the land of 10,000 lakes and it's all public water. So I think part of that open water law is about protecting the ducks and protecting the places to hunt, but also not busting roosts, like not pressuring those ducks out in the middle of the lake and make you go hunt them in places, and try to bring them to you versus going out to them.
Or even for fall anglers. Well,
I think there's something to that.
People already get frustrated enough with fishermen coming through decoys on shore in the fall, especially September, October. And if a guy can set up because this is what we learned on Lake of the Woods. I wanted a walleye fish because we were on a spot that the ducks were feeding.
The layout boats.
And I guarantee you there were walleyes beneath us. So now you get a lake that's smaller than Lake of the Woods, and you get these walleye guys or muskie guys, whatever, want to go fishing. There's a guy trying to duck hunt, and some people get stubborn. There can be a safety issue.
There's a safety issue for sure.
There's going to be some conflicts, and each to their own. Everybody has the right to that lake, and so I don't know. It's a interesting deal. Maybe you put you can start after October 15th or October 31st.
Yeah, you'd have to probably do something like that, and it'd be such a change too that how people are when a regulation gets changed. A lot of people don't realize it for about 10 years and continue to maybe break that law or whatever. But
it'd be another confusion.
Well, there'd be a confusion there, and you'll have people all of a sudden wondering why somebody's out in the middle of the lake banging away at their divers. But I wouldn't mind seeing them. I mean, I had a lot of fun up at Lake of the Woods doing that layout boat deal, and if you opened it up to some more lakes, I think that'd be kind of neat. But it's always something. I will say this about the Minnesota DNR in the waterfowl regs the last few years is I feel like they understood some frustration was coming from their hunters, and they definitely tried to listen. And I think that's why going to 3 zones, northern, central, and southern zone, I thought was a great idea. The splits I thought were a great idea. Not everybody agreed. That's why the southern split essentially became the same as the central instead of what they originally did, which I don't know how I feel about that. I thought it was a good idea to extend the southern zone, extend their season a little bit longer. But a lot of guys in Minnesota too like to hunt teal in early October and September, and guys like us like to hunt late season mallards. But not everybody has the opportunity to hunt fields, so it's hard to make everybody happy.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I mean, we saw the same thing in North Carolina last year. North Carolina implemented splits for the first time last year, or implemented zones for the first time last year. They have 2 zones, and we have a 60-day season, just like y'all. 60-day season on the East Coast, and 56 of the days ran consecutively between the 2 zones. So it's like, what's the point of having 2 zones if you're going to have 4 days that are different between the 2 of them? So that was kind of frustrating, but I think stuff like that, as long as the departments that manage, that set the regulations are willing to listen, I think stuff like that will change.
I feel like they have been, at least the last couple of years. So moving forward, we'll see how things go. And it's going to be so hard. I know, Dan, we've pushed for later seasons so much, and this year just Mother Nature had different plans for us.
Yeah, and that's the battle. But
so
what do you do?
Was this a abnormally early freeze up, or have the past 5 to 10 years been so abnormally warm that it's kind of skewed it? I guess this is more of a question for Brett.
Well, I remember a few years back I was guiding, and I was taking a bunch of clients out on November 7th, and I drove around the lake and I could see the moon reflecting on the ice on the lake, and the entire lake was frozen on November 7th. And it was just like this year. We had a long extended forecast of cold temps, and that was the end of it. We did shoot, there's a little hole left open with some geese, and I think we shot a speck that day, and we shot a banded goose and a speck.
Wow.
And then we went and kicked open a hole to try to shoot ducks and shot 1 gadwall. And that was pretty much the end of our season that year. So, but I know there's been a handful of years in between then and now that we've been hunting geese in a field and been bombed by swarms of mallards that we can't shoot
after Christmas.
Yeah.
You know, this is early, but that's where our frustration is. It's like, especially a lot of these years, we won't see the mallards here, and then it closes and they show up. And I know we're along a river. We're also in the minority of that, and so that's something we have to take into consideration.
And we have access to good fields.
And that, but even just being along a river that's the key thing.
Water.
We have water. You need the water, and in an area like, well, Rochester has open water, but
yeah, power plants and rivers.
Yeah, you know, but you get a spot like, I'm just spitballing here, like Worthington. They don't have any, so it's like 2 hours south of us, and they don't have any place that would keep water open. I know of, at least. I've never hunted down there, but bottom line, you need the open water. We have it. We're lucky enough to have that, and that's why we push for it. I know there's pushback for guys that don't get that, but that's why it's hard. This state is next to impossible to manage and make everybody happy.
So my answer has always been either do the early teal season at the end of September and then push back the regular season so that guys get to shoot their teal. We get to open up a little bit later. We added the early teal, but they put it right at the beginning of September.
In only 5 days.
Only 5 days, and then opened up the regular season at the same time. So nothing really changed with that.
Just an extra 5 days to hunt, which is great.
Which is fine.
I think any extra hunting opportunities kind of cool.
But it's like 80 degrees, and half the time you can't ID teal.
But it's a time to hunt.
You shoot, whatever. We're out there shooting geese anyway at that time. So,
but that's just another one of those things. Not everybody goose hunts.
It's 5 days during the early goose season. So I don't know. We'll be out there hunting geese anyway, and if a teal swims into the decoys, we'll shoot it. Like that's to me the early teal season. So my other answer was to try to get the old Flyway Council together and say give the Mississippi Flyway some extra days, and then everybody's happy. The problem is then Arkansas gets to stay open an extra 10 days, and the guys down south get to stay open an extra 10 days, which their ducks are around a lot longer than they move through. When they move through here, they're weather dependent. When they're down there till it closes. So that's been the pushback on just giving us more days in the Mississippi Flyway. But I don't know. I mean, we're so close to the Central Flyway here. I don't know why they can have whatever they have, 72 or 70 or whatever it is, plus a High Plains unit for mallards in January or whatever they got over there. But it'd be nice to have some river zones or something in Minnesota where if we got the best duck to me, the fatty mallards, late season, plumed up, fatty mallards, late November, if we got a place to shoot them, it would be nice to be able to shoot them. Yeah.
It's definitely hard to be watching them coming to the decoy spread when you can't shoot them. And that's something that I haven't had to deal with much, being from Virginia. We typically get to run till January 31st. So, just a couple times we've had it during late goose season, which runs till February 15th. We'll see them in the spread, but I can't imagine having big swarms of mallards drop into the goose spread like that. Would be aggravating to say the
torture.
least.
And this year, I think I've shot 2 mallards this year. Like the entire, our duck season's almost over, and I've shot more green wing teal than I've ever shot in my life. I feel like we were stacked with green wings for like a month around here, which isn't normal. But I haven't shot a widgeon. I haven't shot a gadwall. I know you guys shot some pintails.
We've shot pintail. I think we shot all 3 of them.
But
not many.
No, like one widgeon or something.
One widgeon, which is abnormal. More pintails than normal. It's been a weird year just in our flyway. I mean, things have been different.
Well, we're real dry, to be fair. Yeah. We're real dry, so we don't have as much water as we've had in recent years.
And that's actually something, obviously it's been cold. I'm not going to say this is why we froze up early, but shallow water freezes faster, so there's something to that too. But it's been so cold that's not a valid argument.
Well, and the mallards just pretty much got here within the last couple of days, and it's going to be over for us. So I guess I'm just frustrated because I'd like to be shooting some more mallards, and I'd rather be shooting mallards than green wing teal, which I like shooting teal, but I'd rather be shooting mallards. Anyway. We can go on and on about this.
We've had a lot of podcasts where we have the same discussion. Well, I'm hoping something changes.
A shell costs what a shell costs, and you get about double the meat off a mallard that you do a green wing. So, I mean, it's double the bang for your buck, I'd say. So, I mean, I can completely understand the argument. I will say, honestly, I think a teal tastes better than a mallard. but maybe not up here. I need more time up here because y'all do get like the extremely fatty mallards late in the season, and it's really hard to beat those. But like in Virginia, where a lot of our ducks aren't incredibly fatty, I'll take a teal over a mallard any day.
And we ate a lot of teal, and we ate some really delicious teal, and I like eating teal too. But it's funny how my progression in the waterfowl, not even in the industry, but just as a waterfowl hunter, from going to wanting to shoot limits to going to want to shoot, a mixed bag and shoot ducks I've never shot before. And now literally, I like going out there and shooting them and watching them work and all that, but I'm getting food. Like I eat these things and I eat them all the time. And the whole thing about not shooting hen mallards, I get it, to try to help the population, all that stuff, but I don't want to shoot a hen mallard because they're smaller than the drakes. Like literally the size of the breast is smaller, and I'm there I just love a fatty mallard, drake mallard.
So let me just clear this up here. This isn't going to be aired on the radio, but you like large breasts?
Oh boy. Well, yes.
That was just kind of a chip shot there.
I love large breasts on my male ducks. Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
I just made it even weirder.
I mean, it is 2022. So
he likes large breasts on males.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I just heard. I edit this show, so that's exactly what's going out. That will go on the radio.
I mean,
that's the promo.
Those drake mallards can identify as hen mallards all they want. I don't care. I'm still shooting them because they're bigger. Their breasts are bigger. All right. Thomas Hoke, Hoke Outdoors on YouTube. Where else can we find you online?
I do a little bit of Instagram stuff on Instagram, and then I have a Facebook page. I don't really mess with it much anymore. So Instagram would be the main other place, and that's just Hoke Outdoors as well.
I know you did some filming with Corey. We didn't even get into Corey Loeffler's stories.
Yeah.
But tell me one Corey Loeffler story from filming with him this fall up there. Before we go.
Well, he showed me something I'd never seen before. He took a duck.
The waterproofing?
Yes,
Isn't
the
that
waterproofing.
Wild?
That is wild. Yeah, took a duck, plucked it, and he's messing around on his back. I'm like, what is he doing? Like, I've known that ducks have a gland back there, but I've never seen anybody mess with it. I mean, typically all your focus is on the other side of the duck, where you get your food. But he's squeezing around back there, and I pull up the camera, and he's like, well, you're going to see some waterproof in here, and, squeezes some oil out there, and then he's rubbing it all on his gloves, and sure enough, dips them in the water, and they're waterproof. So that was pretty wild to see. He's just, like, he's the quintessential person for doing stuff like that. Like, every time you think you know what Corey's gonna do, like, he's gonna throw you another curveball. So that's the really fun part of hunting with him, or one of the really fun parts of hunting with him and hanging out with him. Yeah,
good dude, smart dude, fun to be around. Good family up there, and I know you're close, living with his family up there too at DRC, and it's a good time up there.
Yeah, so. I'm extremely thankful for the opportunity that he's given me, and just how accepting his family has been of allowing me to basically live with them. I eat dinner with them every night.
How many times has Kelsey been described as a saint by everybody that knows Corey?
Oh,
by the
man,
way?
Just so nice. I mean, I'd say that word describes her perfectly.
And some fresh pups up there, Corey Rue and Sean Stall's Carl.
Yep. So got 8 little black labs, and oh my gosh, they are growing so quickly. Like, I've never been around puppies before, and I'm actually really excited. I'm driving back up there tonight. I'm probably the thing I'm most excited for is to see how big those puppies have gotten in 3 or 4 days, because they are growing like weeds, basically. Yeah. Like, I mean, just incredible how quickly. And Rue's been doing a great job just feeding them nonstop. So they're getting that big old milk diet, and I think they'll be ready to, be going home to some forever families here before too long.
Well, man, it was fun having you down here. Let's do it again. Have a safe drive back up to Thief River Falls and DRC's home base up there, and thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brett. Yeah, it was an absolute pleasure, and it was a pleasure meeting you as well, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming down.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. 852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.